Today, we're going to talk about the tale of two twerkers and answer the question, is it wrong to do a little twerk at work or after work? Let's get into it. Woo, there's a lot happening in the world of work right now. So thank you for stopping by. My name is T. I'm a certified HR professional. And if you're new here, welcome. And if you're returning, you know I love hanging out in the basement with you. Have a seat, grab some snacks, and let's get into our first story. All right, y'all. So I will be looking at my notes back and forth. So if you see me looking up here and then down and then up and then down, I'm trying to figure out where you are exactly. But I think you're here somewhere with me. So I appreciate it. Anyway, the first story. So again, this one is a little twerk before work, right? And so we have a woman by the name of Nellie Diala, and she had just completed her new hire probationary period with Alaska Airlines. So this is her dream job. She's super excited. She decided to set up her phone. She was in uniform on a company plane. And, she decided to do a little dance to celebrate the fact that she was official now with Alaska Airlines. She posted that video to social media. All hell broke loose and she was fired. And now she feels like she was discriminated against. So let's read what she had to say. So here she says, I didn't think being so happy could turn into something like this. She said, I just decided to take advantage of the moment to wake myself up and get myself hyped up for my day. And I'm going to go ahead and play her interview. This is post her losing her job. And so let's listen to her here, and then I'll come back with more thoughts.
What did they say to you?
They just said that I broke their social media policy.
Nell had only been on the job for 6 months. She says she was twerking to celebrate the end of her probationary period. Why did you decide to post the video?
And I was really proud of myself that I came so far. I just didn't think that my video and my post and the way I was dancing would be deemed as inappropriate.
So how did you feel in that meeting when they told you you lost your job?
I put on such a proud face every time I stepped on that plane. And for them to terminate me without giving me a chance, it just was unfair.
All right, so we just heard her interview post her being let go from her job. And I would just say that as an HR professional, there's a couple of things that stood out to me about her video. One, she said she was terminated without warning. So we're going to talk about that. And then two, she said that she felt that she was discriminated against. And if there are employment lawyers in the chat, I would love to have you chime in. I want to address the discrimination portion first. So I decided to look and see if there were other Alaska Airlines employees dancing in company uniform, dancing with company signage. And here's what I found. So let's take a look at the videos. What's up? This is Editing Tea with a couple of quick disclaimers. So the first disclaimer is, of course, I'm not playing the video from the music from TikTok because you know how YouTube is, and I'm a brand new channel, so not trying to get a strike. But this is just to show that I don't find anything wrong with these dances. The first person is actually celebrating the end of their probationary period. Now, for this one, this was produced by Alaska Airlines themselves. And so I'm not necessarily looking at who produced what in this particular case. I'm just looking at the dance. I'm looking at the movement. And I'm not sure that her dance was more egregious than any of the dances that we're seeing. We interrupt this video to bring you a quick word from our sponsors at Talkspace. And if you've been thinking about getting a therapist, but you weren't sure if this is the right time, this is your sign. We all know work can be overwhelming. You've got deadlines, you have meetings, you have endless emails, or even a toxic boss. Either way, it all adds up. And you're not alone. Over half of workers report feeling burned out, and that's where Talkspace comes in. They offer a way to connect with licensed therapists anytime, anywhere. And that's why I'm so excited to partner with Talkspace. Talkspace connects you with a licensed therapist right from your phone. So you can do video chat, texting, you can get therapy for your spouse. They do couples therapy, teen therapy, therapy for your whole family. And they accept most insurances. And if you don't have insurance, they're even willing to work with you. So use the code on the screen. Down below, I've placed the link. Go ahead and click on that link. Go ahead and sign up. And back to our story. And of course, this final one is just like a little quick wiggle. But, I will say I don't see anything wrong with these dances. And when I compare it to Nell's dance, I don't know that any of these dances or Nell's dance was any worse. I know that there were a lot of people coming down on her online, but again, as I look at all of these different types of dances, I don't I, I don't see the difference, but I would love to see what you all think. Do you think that her dance was more egregious than some of what we saw here? Let me know. Okay, so we just took a look at the video. Me personally, I don't really think that there was a problem with her dance, but I don't work for Alaska Airlines, right? So, and looking at some of the other dances that we just saw, some of these dances, depending on who's looking at them, they might seem a little inappropriate, right? We saw somebody doing the splits and they were in front of the Alaska Airlines signage. And again, I'm not saying I want anyone to lose their job. So that's not what this is about. What I'm bringing this forward for is she might have a case for discrimination if Alaska Airlines is unable to prove that her dance was more egregious or more inappropriate or less professional than some of the dances that we viewed here. So that's for the courts to decide. Okay, I pulled the code of conduct for Alaska Airlines, so let's read this together. On page 4, where they give an overview of their code of conduct, they say doing your job in an honest, safe, professional, and courteous manner while abiding by all applicable laws, regulations, and policies. Then treating guests, suppliers, and fellow employees with dignity and respect, avoiding situations where your interests conflict with the interests of the companies, and timely completion of required training about the code and other compliance related topics. So, one thing I want you to focus on here is if you notice, their policy is a bit broad, right? And what do I mean by that? Well, in it doesn't say no twerking or no dancing or no singing. It doesn't say any of that. The reason is because it protects the company. If the company gets too prescriptive on what you can't do, it sets them up for all kinds of stuff. So then it becomes, well, you didn't say I couldn't chew gum. You didn't list that I couldn't, right? So what they do is they say things like, do your job in a professional manner. And what is considered a professional manner? That's kind of left up to your interpretation as an employee of theirs and being able to see what is considered professional behavior. Or their other bullet, avoiding situations where your interests conflict with the interests of the companies. What does that mean exactly? So there are specific conflicts of interest, but then there might be some other things, right? So that's left a little bit broad, and that helps to protect the company. Also, let's look at their social media policy on page 14. So, Alaska Airlines social media policy states almost everyone uses social media in one way or another, and we respect your right to maintain an online presence on social media. You should make it clear that your online profiles are personal and that you do not represent our companies in social media. And even when using your personal profiles, you should not use social media to harass or bully coworkers, guests, or anyone else related to our companies. And so you can read the rest here. I'll make sure to put it down in the comment section or link it somehow. But basically, it seems that Alaska Airlines is trying to be fair. So they're saying, hey, we know you're going to have social media. We don't care about that. Just make sure that you explicitly state that these views are your own and they're not the views of the company, right? So there's some question there. That's their social media policy. Again, she was on a company plane in company uniform and stating that she was a ghetto BIH till she DIE. So, and I don't know what song was playing in the background. I'm not sure what the song was. The dance itself, to me, again, didn't look too egregious, but especially in comparison, it looked similar to the other dances that are on Alaska Airlines' own site. So maybe it was the song, but they have an explicit policy. So we'll see what happens if she ends up taking this to court. Now, the next story, let's get into that. All right, so now let's flip the script to our second twerker or employee in question. And this time it's Detective Melissa Murado. So she is a 7-year veteran of NYPD's Special Victims Unit. So she's a decorated detective. And Melissa appeared in a music video for the rapper Esquire, which is pretty interesting in terms of a name because I'm like, okay, so she's a detective. Is he a lawyer? Because Esquire and then Esquire is the title that lawyers have. So I don't know. It's interesting. He might be a lawyer on his. I got to look into him. Maybe he is a lawyer because that's a very interesting rapper name. But anyway, so let's watch the video and see what the public was up in arms about. All right. So once New York PD found out, here's what happened to Melissa. She was quietly reassigned, she was pulled off of active cases, and I believe she was transferred to another precinct. So, what's the difference? Apparently, an internal review is reviewing and investigating to see if she broke any other policies, especially those related to off duty employment or behavior that can damage public trust. For all we know, she could have been on a case in the music video. Seriously, right? Like, we don't know what was actually happening, or if she just has other aspirations. In addition to her detective career, she might have other aspirations. So, in any case, it seems like she wasn't fired. So, what's the difference between Nellie or Nell and the Alaska Airlines employee and Melissa, the New York PD detective? Well, first, Melissa was not in uniform, she wasn't at work. She didn't even identify herself, at least in the video, as New York PD. All right. Okay, so as far as I can tell, and sorry that it cut off a little bit before, I was just saying there was nothing in that video that you can see that where she was identifying herself as a New York um, detective. So there was no like hat, no, jacket and badge, nothing. There was nothing that identified her. And I'm really curious about how this got out because I don't know if this rapper is particularly popular, right? And so maybe he's popular in New York. If somebody's from New York, please tell me. But I wonder if she told somebody at her job and then maybe it got out. Maybe they were hating on her. But nonetheless, she did not get fired from what I understand. And so what they're looking into is because for the New York Police Department, you have to let them know if you are going to be moonlighting and you have to get written approval. And so if she did that, then it seems like she wouldn't be in trouble. And like I said, we don't even know if she was on the video set, if she was working a case, because they did pull her off of whatever cases she was working. So we don't know if she was undercover or what was happening there. But according to their policy, if it's okay to moonlight as long as you get written approval for the moonlighting gig that you're going to take. So, what are our takeaways from this? I think the biggest takeaway is read that employee manual. And nobody does it. Nobody reads the employee manual. I'm guilty of that myself in the past. But read the employee manual and really understand what it is that you can and cannot do. So that would be the first thing. Second thing, not everything is for public consumption. So, if you're not sure, like if you're on a probationary period, let even 30 or 60 more days pass before you do anything. And if you have questions, I know people are afraid of HR, but ask HR first, like, hey, I want to post this little dance. I'm super excited. What's within the limits? What's outside of the limits? What can I do? What can I not do? Or if you're going to do it, make sure to keep it very, very separate from whatever your main job is, like the detective did. But always read that manual, because while the manual does protect the company, it also protects you as an employee, because then you can definitively say, hey, I was within bounds, or I was not, or I was, or what bounds you should go inside or outside of. So that's the takeaway, folks. Read the employee manual. And I would like to know what you all think. Um, do you think it was fair what happened to the first person? Again, you saw the other dances. So do you think she has a case? Do you think that it was discriminatory that she was fired? Even though what their company policy said, it seems like sometimes they adhere to it, sometimes they don't, at least looking on TikTok, right? And then for the detective, do you think that she should be fired? There are people who are saying that she was morally wrong for what she did. So I would love to see you all weigh in the comments. I appreciate every single one of you. And I will see you for our next story.